any questions. So that we have a seminar series at EMAS, which is run by Center for Indic Studies, and Carol has been speaker there. Have you? We attended Indic Studies. But this series is a little bit different. First of all, of course, this is run not by EMAS, it is run by Institute of Advanced Sciences, where we have a school of Indic Studies. But this seminar series is more for engagement, engaging the discussion. It's not, there in the university, you just come and give a lecture, have all kind of people. But here, most people who come to this, they're familiar with the topics. They have their own views. And the idea is to exchange those. And major purpose of that is we want to have this conversation at the deeper level so that we advance the idea rather than just simply learn about them. And there couldn't be any better topic than what we are going to speak here today. We have had last semester is the one we started, and this semester is full actually. Next month we are going to do on March 5th a Kavi Sammelan. Those who know Hindi, we are going to have it's kind of in celebrating Holi, which is the color of festival of color, and so it's poetry reading. And if any one of you is interested, please let me know. We will put your name. Any language is fine. It's not, although there will be a lot of people who will speak in Hindi or some Indian local languages. And in April, we have actually 2 events because last month, because it got snowed out. I was supposed to speak on my experience and observations about my visit to India. And because of that, because of snow, we couldn't do that on 23rd of January. So I have rescheduled it and for April 9th. And since I said that my fresh observations, so I'm going back to India to bring my fresh observations. So I will be gone in March for 2 weeks and will bring my fresh observations again to speak on 9th of April, and then 23rd of April we are going to have a conference, 1 day-long conference from 10 to 5 p.m., which is going to be on the language of Ramcharitmanas, which is one of the Ramayana, is one of the epics written, and the language is the language that Ramayana is written is called Avadhi, which is related to Ayodhya. And so we will talk about that language and other aspects of Ramayana as well. So we will have, and those of you who are interested in any scholarly presentations, please let us know. And then finally we will have in May a presentation by Dr. Amit Tandon, who is a oceanographer, physical oceanographer, and there is a very unique team working, international US and Indian team is working on monsoon. Monsoon is a beautiful thing that some of you know, and many of the Indian literature and culture and tradition is really around the monsoon. Of course, life is sustained because of monsoon, but also it's very unpredictable. So these scientists are working at that. So he will present both aspects of it, particularly the aspect that how the unpredictability of monsoon can be improved, and the farmer's life and the maybe consequently cultures will also be improved. So we have full semester seminar engagement and schedule. But if any one of you are interested in engaging this kind of conversation and have a topic to talk about, please let us know. We are already filling up the the one we making. Yes, so we do make we are recording all these lectures and we make them YouTube and then make them available. So you can always forward to your friends. Some of you already watch and have given me some feedback. So, but in the fall, what I was saying, that we already have a couple of speakers, but anyone who is interested, we will have 4 talks, September, October, November, December, and please feel free to let us know. But like I said, the idea is to engage, to bring in topics where people are a little bit familiar with things, and then they get benefit of your experiences, but also they bring in to have their clarifications. This topic particularly really perfectly fits. TM is so practical, such a practical thing, On the other hand, I was really very surprised when she gave the topic that is the origin in Bhagavad Gita, which normally people think it's just a text, a philosophy. But philosophy being in practice is a very different, and I think I hope they are going to look forward to listen to you and learn so much more. She is, as I already gave the introduction in writing, she's a very dedicated person. She has spent quite a bit of time not only in Maharishi University and with Maharishi Group and in different countries including France and India, but also she has a degree in education, so she's very interested, and she's a very, very kind person. I've been in touch with her for the last couple of years, and she's a certified TM teacher, and she will tell more about that, how that all works. One story I want to tell you that I did learn TM in 2011. Normally TM, not TM, when I was at UMass or even now, most people who have something to share about Indic related stuff, they normally are very frank and they very openly tell. But the TM people, I came to know of them in 2002 when we had Waves conference in UMass, and they always invited me to go to Maharishi University, and I didn't get a chance to go. And finally I went there and I saw everything. They will talk everything about TM, but they will tell you what exactly, how to do the TM. They will not tell you that. Not like just conversation wise. You have to really go through a process, because it's very important actually. When I finally went through the process, number one, there is some cost of it involved with it, but number two is that process is very sincere and very dedicated, very committed, and they commit for the whole life. It's not like you got to learn once and gone. You can go and check with anywhere, any teacher, certified teachers, and you can just make an appointment, go, and they have groups of people who do TM. This is a wonderful system, and I'm learning more about it. And just let's begin with Carol. Carol, thank you.
Thank you very much, Balaram. I'm very grateful that Balaram has been inviting me to these talks and is allowing me to speak today. And I am also very grateful to the Vedic tradition of India, because it brought us Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who is the founder of the Transcendental Meditation technique. And he has brought this all over the world, and it has made a great difference to a lot of people, over 6 million people in the world. And for me in my life, it has been a wonderful, it's fulfilled my spiritual aspirations. It's given me a technique to develop myself and be able to just live my religion the way I want to. Even though I'm a Christian, I am doing Transcendental Meditation, and it's something that is good for any person of any religion and any walk of life. And it doesn't require belief. You can have any beliefs, you can be totally skeptical, but it will work. And it not only brings spiritual benefits, but it also brings mental, physical, and social benefits, and it even has an effect on the world. Now, when I first came to the lecture meeting with Balram, it was in the building in Dartmouth, and he spoke of his recent impressions of India.
That time that was a recent
And he began by, it was a very interesting talk, and he began by talking about all the ways that India and the United States are opposite. We are on opposite sides of the world. When it's day here, it's night there. And the opposites just kept going and going until it involved the culture and the personality of the two countries. And I want to say today, I think that one of the things that Balaram is bringing out is that opposites can learn from each other. And I want to bring out a point which Maharishi teaches in his science. Transcendental meditation is a practical technique. It's a way to sit down and experience deeper and deeper levels of your own thought process, and then to experience the very deepest level of your mind. But there is also a science that goes along with it. Every science has a practical aspect and a theoretical aspect. And the theoretical aspect Maharishi called the science of creative intelligence. And I can explain that a little more later, but I'm back to the opposites. Opposites are found together is one of Maharishi's principles in that course. It's a 33-lesson course. And I also recommend it along with the Tian technique. When opposites are found together, they can strengthen and support each other. If I take this piece of paper and fold it in half, I create two opposite sides that are joined together. Now, when it's this way, I can't do much with it. But when I bring the two opposites together, what do I have? I have a structure, and I have something that can stand on its own. So the two opposite sides support each other, and in the end, they're both stronger. There is something I want to say about transcendental meditation, in that it brings some key opposites together to create balance and integration in life. One of those opposites is inner and outer. When we sit down and meditate, we close the eyes and we do a simple technique. It's very effortless and natural, and it allows the mind to go within. I am going to use an analogy. This is for inner and outer. And this has to do with the mind. Can everyone see? Whenever we talk about the mind, we like to use an analogy and compare it to the ocean. It's interesting that Maharishi has many analogies, and since I've been coming to these meetings, I've noticed that many of I thought they were unique to Maharishi, but I've noticed that other people are using the same ones. So I think they're very traditional Vedic analogies. And so you may hear some of them tonight. So the ocean has this, well, we can think of this as the outer, the surface of the ocean. And then it has the depth at the bottom. The outer is very active, and the inner is silent. But the activity on the surface of the ocean is supported by the silence at the depth, because it is the depth of the ocean that gives it the ability to have waves. The waves could be 40 feet. but it's because of the depth of the ocean that it's able to have that activity. In the case of the mind, most of us experience the mind as being very active. Thoughts come and they just come and come and come. They just never stop, do they? But there is also a deeper level of the mind which is silent. It's more silent, but it's at the very deepest level. Normally in our activity and in our daily life, we experience the surface level. But with the Transcendental Meditation technique, we're going to go within. And this is done in a very effortless way. And we experience what is the deepest level. We call this the field of pure consciousness. Or we also call it the source of thought. By the way, I know that I talked about the Gita first in my title, but I thought that I should explain about Transcendental Meditation first and a little bit about the benefits. And then we will talk about the Gita and the reference Transcendental Meditation and specifically transcending in the Gita. So this pure consciousness, source of thought, it's also called the field of creative intelligence, the pure field of creative intelligence. If we look at nature, we know that in nature there's an orderliness and there's an intelligence. There are many innumerable processes going on and growth and things, ecosystems where animals depend on each other and all these things going on in nature. And there is an intelligence that keeps it going in an orderly fashion. And this intelligence is in every person. It's in all of nature, and we are in nature as well, and so it is in us. But the human being has the unique ability to actually experience that creative intelligence, the pure field of creative intelligence within their own mind. And this is done in a very through transcendental meditation. The way we do this is just in a very effortless and easy way. And when we experience this, then we are able to use our full potential. You know, they say that most people only use a small portion of their full potential. And I know that's certainly the way I felt before I started meditating. And that's one of the reasons I started, because I felt there was something more that I was lacking. And so I began TM. And because of this use of full potential, the mind begins to show more intelligence, more clarity of thinking. Students do better in school. It's easier to study. It's easier to focus and concentrate. And often grade point averages improve. This is a sampling of the research that's been done on TM. There have been over 700 studies on this on the benefits of TM, and more than half of them have been published in scientific journals. There's also an increase in creativity and just in more use of one's inner potential with the mental, intellectual potential. And also what has been found in individual meditating is that the brain shows a unique brainwave pattern. And it's the alpha, it's high frequency alpha waves that are experienced. There are many different types of meditation. Every meditation has its own brainwave pattern. And the brainwave pattern of Transcendental Meditation shows that the mind is actually increasing in alertness, even though there's a restfulness. And the body shows restfulness. So this is a unique state of consciousness. We call it restful alertness. The body is very rested, and the mind is actually increased in alertness. And people who meditate, they experience a restfulness that has an awareness with it. You're aware of sounds around you and the different whatever is going on around you. You can hear it. But at the same time, you're very, very deeply rested. And in some ways, it's even deeper than sleep. This brings us to so that's another opposite. Restfulness and alertness together. That is found in TM. That brings us to the benefits for the body. When we meditate, not only does the mind gain that expansion and experiencing the depth of the mind, but that deep, deep rest has an effect on the body. We know that whenever we get deep rest, the body heals itself. And it purifies itself of stress. This is a major reason why people like to learn TM, is for the health benefits. And when we get that deep rest and we release stress, then there are many benefits to the body. The research that's been done is very extensive, and I can show you, we can talk about some of it here. First, on this diagram, we see that there's a decrease during Transcendental Meditation. There's a decrease in the stress hormone in the body, in the blood system, which is called plasma cortisol. This study is interesting because they were comparing a person meditating through Transcendental Meditation with someone who was just sitting with their eyes closed. And I know that some people say, well, I can do that. If I just sit twice a day for 20 minutes and just close my eyes, I'm going to get a deep rest. And but this here shows that the rest is much deeper. There's much greater decrease in plasma cortisol. So we said that this rest results in improved health. And we can see that in these other studies. Reduced cholesterol, there's better functioning of the physiology, and so that there's reduced cholesterol, decreased anxiety, decreased need for cigarettes, alcohol, and drug abuse, and lower hospital admissions, and lower blood pressure. This is a major study which has had a big effect on the acceptance of TM in the medical community. At the time of this study, I've had these charts for a while. This was a 3-month interval that was being measured. And TM again was compared to different techniques. One is the usual care of education, change in diet. And the second one was progressive muscle relaxation, another form of relaxing the body. And then TM. And as you can see in this diagram, over the 3-month period, there was a much greater effect in Transcendental Meditation. This particular study was continued over a 9-year period, so that the scientists were able to measure other factors, which included stroke, heart attack, and death in that time. And what was found was that there was a 48% decrease in the meditating group as compared to the control group. This left an impression on the American Medical Association, and they came out with a statement saying that transcendental meditation could be used by doctors, prescribed by doctors for the treatment of hypertension. And this was a big milestone in our acceptance in the medical community. Are there any questions so far? So this is the second area of benefit, because really when we contact that deepest level of our own self, it benefits every area of life. It's like, another analogy that Maharishi uses is the tree. If you want to bring nourishment to a tree, you water the root. And consciousness, the self, is the root of all of life for the individual. And so by meditating through transcendental meditation, we dive within, experience that within ourselves, and then it's nourishing all aspects of the outer life. The inner nourishes the outer. And then there's benefits to the mind, the body, and also the relationships, our ability to relate to other people. When we are at home within ourselves, then we have more to offer in our relationships. And more, what grows is appreciation. We have more appreciation within us, and that goes to the outer. And this is bringing me to a shorter video. Do you think we could play it at this point? A shorter one? This is a recent video that was made showing different people who experienced the results of TM. And I like it because it shows the social benefit and the benefit within families and how they relate to each other. And so I thought it would be nice to play this.
Oh, I turn off the whole thing. Is that better? Did I take off the power there?
Turn off the projector also.
It's incredible. It's like a free account of an endless amount of it.
Our definition of success gets shrunken down to these two metrics of money and power, which is like trying to sit on a two-legged stool, and the third metric, which includes our well-being, wisdom, wonder, and giving, and really not being part of our lives. And for me, meditating is one of the most direct ways, as well as sleep, of course, to reconnect with that.
I think we know in relation to the word the research on it is showing that when kids are meditating twice a day in school, improving all kinds of important areas. When you're less stressed, you can focus better, you can resist distraction better, and when you have this increased coherence of brain function, you can organize your thought.
Stress is what creates problems. Students make them fight out. Remove the stress, and that you get peace.
The meditation gives a break from my it helps you clear your mind. After I meditate, I feel more refreshed, alert. It just helps you throughout your day.
What I try to do is to develop a system here in this school to support our students along with our families.
Todo lo que uno tiene dentro con la meditación le sale y se libera de mucho estrés que uno tiene. Entonces uno trata los hijos diferentes. Así es, I am a mom for us in a better relationship. Meditation can help you be less violent and less angry. It helps you calm down before you act. And so it basically makes you think before you do.
It's a lot of peace and love in the house now.
If you keep parents and children communicating, that goes a long way towards helping them be better people.
When you have a family sitting down meditating, you're going to have more peace in that house. And what happened was that home, they're peaceful, then they start to spring out. You're going to see a big change. Once you reduce the stress, the violence will dissipate, not only for the community, but for the city.
projects for different areas of society where people need the at-risk populations, is what I'm trying to think of. We have a wing of our organization called the David Lynch Foundation, and they do these projects for at-risk populations. And so that's some of what you saw. And and also you saw the benefits to in the social behavior and interaction and in the families. And as Dr. Rutherford mentioned in the film, when he showed that the peace in the family radiates to the community, and then the community to the city, and the city to the world, then in that way, the TM technique also affects the whole world. And this is one of our goals as an organization, is to bring about more and more world peace. And so we have the 4 areas that we focus on. Well, they just happen naturally. We don't focus or try to make these things happen. But the benefit to the individual in their use of mental potential, the benefits for the physical and mental health of the individual, the benefits for the society, and the benefits for the world. And this completes the information about the benefits. So now I would like to talk about the Gita. And we had the 2 verses that we talked about. The Gita, at least one of my friends may not have heard too much about the Gita, but I think most of you do know, that Arjuna was faced with a dilemma. He was the leader of the army, and he knew that it was his duty to perform, to engage in battle. And yet he looked at his opponent, and what he saw was his relatives, his kinsmen, and his heart was sad that he would be fighting against his kinsmen. So he was torn in half. Here we have the 2 opposites again. But he looked to Krishna, who was there guiding him and advising him. And he tells him his situation, and he expects an answer from Krishna. And instead, Krishna knows that in the field of the relative, we have 2 fields of life. The relative that we see, the material world, and then the inner world, which is beyond the relative. It's within our consciousness, it's within the intelligence in the universe. That unbounded, field of non-change. I'm using Maharishi's terms, which he gave to us in this country to help us understand this. And I know that you who are very familiar with the Vedas, you have your own terminology. But I think you can, later in discussing, we can use your term, you can help with that, matching your terminology. But this is what we call Maharishi calls the absolute and the relative. The relative is this world that we see, the world of the senses, and the world that it's always changing. And then we have the absolute field, which is non-change, and which is the field of potential. In physics, they have actually theorized the existence of this field, and they call it the unified field. And Maharishi says that the unified field in physics is the same as the Vedic field of absolute non-change. And so Krishna says to Arjuna, be without the three gunas. The three gunas, the Veda's concern is with the three gunas. Be without the three gunas, O Arjuna, freed from duality, ever firm in purity, independent of possessions, possessed of the self. In saying this, he is telling Arjuna, this is Maharishi's interpretation, he is telling Arjuna to transcend, to go from this field of relative existence to the field of non-change within. This is the field of the deepest level of the individual consciousness. That is where we experience it. And he says that this is where Krishna is telling Arjuna the technique of solving this problem of, it's really the solution, Maharishi says, to all problems on the relative field, because it's introducing the second element, the element of absolute pure consciousness, the element of light which dispels the darkness. It's the field of truth and non-change. And that is the stability that Arjuna needed. He needed to go away from the problem. Maharishi says, even, as a businessman, if a businessman he has a situation and he's trying to solve the problem, sometimes it's good to just get away from it. And so this is what Maharishi says Krishna is telling Arjuna, Nistrigunya Bhavajuna. Be without the three gunas, be without this relative field of life. It goes on to say, talk about action, because he is saying, go beyond and then act. Go beyond, go within, gain your full potential of your own consciousness, and then being established on that level, then perform action. So you are using your full potential, which, as we know, is infinite. If we contact that level, and if we're established on that level, then we have infinite potential. And this is the connection of Transcendental Meditation to the Gita. And this is from Maharishi's commentary. I have the book here. Maharishi's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita It's chapters 1 through 6. And he writes a commentary that continues. But Maharishi has spoken many, many times about these two verses, Nistraigunyo Babajun and Yogastha Kuru Kamani, established in being, perform action. This is the state of the full development of the individual, the state which is also called enlightenment. And from that level, action is naturally right and naturally evolutionary, and it's in accordance with the laws of nature. So this is the goal of transcendental meditation. We transcend, we experience that being within us, and then we engage in activity. So when we have those two opposites balancing each other, the deep rest, the deep experience of our inner value, we can engage in activity and use that full potential and have increased dynamism, increased success in activity, increased fulfillment in our relationships and what we do, and also have a harmonious effect on the environment. So this is the story. I think I'd like to open to discussion, and then we have a tape of Maharishi. So anyone who has any comments or questions or yeah.
I do have questions, but let me use the restroom.
Yes.
You said that the question about Gita, maybe some other people can ask. You said that by practicing this TM, all these things, good things happen.
Yes.
Body and mind.
Absolutely naturally. They just, you don't have to believe in it, you don't have to try to make it happen. It isn't a psychological mood or anything. The results just happen.
But why?
Because when we meditate, two things happen. We experience our inner self, the deepest level of our mind. This level is more powerful. As we said, this is the source of thought, the level of pure consciousness. So when we normally, when we have a thought, this is a very good question. When we have a thought, we compare it to a bubble, starting at the bottom of the ocean and coming to the surface. Now, when we have a thought, it has intelligence, it has energy in it, but it's at a very deep level, and then it comes and it's more and more concrete. Our memories, our thoughts, our experiences affect the thought. And also our stress that is in our body. It affects our thinking. Now, when we meditate and we go within and the mind is settling down, the body is also getting that deep rest. The deep rest clears away the stress, just automatically. So every time we meditate, we are clearing a little bit more stress every time away from the system. So in that way, this field of pure consciousness, it's also the field of being. This is lived. It's expressed more. Because it's the stress in our bodies that inhibit it. And the stress in our body that inhibits our thinking and also our health. So when we meditate and we release the stress, naturally we just have all the results. They just happen.
So the problem we think is because of stress,
Yes.
the problems occur.
Yeah.
And the stress occurs because we have mind.
And body.
Yeah, of course, body is the problem, it's the result of the problem, but the mind is the one who causes stress.
The body, yes. Stress is both mind and body.
Okay.
Stress is actually physical.
Like working hard or something like that.
Yeah, it is also a chemical or physical imbalance. When you have an experience that's overwhelming in some way, then it creates an imbalance in your body. It registers. It's your response to the situation. And so your body is thrown off chemically or structurally, like knots in your tightness in your muscles, or chemicals like plasma cortisol. Those chemicals like that are produced in the body and they're in your bloodstream. So when we have the deep rest, the body naturally dissolves those. The positive hormones are produced.
But the TM is, what appears to me, the TM is really just a mental calming down. That's what you were telling from there, that theory.
It's both, because even though the technique is you're closing your eyes, you're doing something, that's mental in a way, with your thoughts, but your physiology gets a rest.
But affected by the mental.
Yeah. The mind and body are affecting each other.
I wonder if those who don't have mind, they don't have any problems.
Oh my God.
Would that
There isn't anything without mind, sir.
there is
The question is, developed mind and undeveloped mind, or lesser developed.
so how
Without mind is a enough thing.
how about the trees or bacteria? Do they have?
Yes, they have some degree of it, much lesser than us.
But they get much less stress, I guess.
Yes,
Do you know
they do fight.
Maharishi's view of that is that the human beings, our stress goes out into the environment. And so we affect the trees and the plants
Yes.
with our stress. And the more we meditate and develop our consciousness and have more positive energy coming out, then we also have that effect of the environment. Even the trees and even the weather.
So Carol, in your studies and I think some wonderful results there, was there a minimum prescribed period before these results started to manifest themselves noticeably to an individual? At a, let's say for example, the prescribed period to do an exercise, right? When you do exercise, there's a lot of metabolism change, your hormones start kicking in. But the recent study from Harvard Medical School was at a minimum of 250 hours before any meaningful. Of course, no exercise is always better than some exercise, but so did the study come up with any specific?
Very, very deep rest. But every person is starting at a different level. Some people have a lot of stress. And some people, they're almost enlightened. And so maybe one meditation, like probably Arjuna, who was very close. So, he may have had it right away. One experience. So we can never say how long but we can say that the effects accumulate. You don't slip backwards. When you meditate, it's a continual progress.
You were saying that the Transcendental Meditation heightens alpha waves, and then you alluded to the fact that other things heighten other waves. Would those be other types of meditation or yoga or
yes.
whatever someone else uses?
There are different types of meditation, and
And are the alpha more beneficial than say I do Kriya Yoga and it gets me to a level that lowers my cortisol levels and the other things, but I don't know what waves. I know that humming meditation raises gamma waves, but is that something that is important in the whole, like when thinking about the type of way that we are going to meditate, what will lead to our stress?
Yes, because it's showing that the different brainwave patterns actually verify that the different effects of different types of meditation are very different. And the purpose of some meditations are, say, for if they're focusing, say, on compassion or concentration or things like that, then what is, I saw an article where it's showing how each meditation is enlivening one area of the brain. If they're focusing on compassion or concentration or relaxation. But the TM technique does not use concentration. We do not use control or force of the mind. We use the natural tendency of the mind. And this makes it very different. The goal with TM is to transcend in a very effortless way. And it actually needs to be effortless. Because if you're concentrating, then or forcing the mind, then you're going to stay on the surface. Because concentration and forcing and control, that's an activity. And you know that sometimes they'll say, well, we just clear our minds of thought. But how do you do that? You can't do it intentionally, because if you try, that's a thought anyway. I'm gonna clear my minds of thought. Well, that's a thought. So how do you get beyond that? So with TM, we just have a specific technique, and with it, the mind is carried within.
What specific things would suggest that a person would come to TM as opposed to some other of the many practices that they could do?
That's an excellent question. If you want these benefits, I suggest TM.
Well, the benefits are universal. As far as I read the literature from any form of medication, not any. There's some variation, of course, but yeah.
I really think that with TM, we're able to transcend.
So what if I or some other person, has a choice among several kinds of meditation? What would you, as a TM person, suggest? Is there something I should look at? Is there some test that I can do that would suggest to me that TM is better for me? Or not? Maybe not, maybe there's not. Yeah. In other words, I get from TM, from the TM literature, that the idea is